Hello, everyone. I hope that you are doing well. Welcome to Michelle's Inspiration Hour. And I am so excited to bring out our next guest because, a lot of people go through tribulations and everybody has a story about what they go through. But many times when we go through those tribulations, we don't want to ever talk about it, much less write a book about it. So, and I know that, God got into her life and she said, "You know what? I'm going to go ahead and talk about my tribulations and I'm going to turn that around, show everybody what I learned so that it can help inspire others." So, I found a scripture that I thought was perfect for her. And it says, describing her whole life, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." That's just one of my, scriptures that I tend to go back to. And I am a big believer in prayer and actually having the divine as my friend as well. So, again, if you're not a Christian, it's always good to have some type of, spirituality in your life so that you do not feel alone. Let me go ahead and describe my next guest. All right, Michaela S. Cox is a multi published author and speaker who writes and speaks of diverse topics ranging from faith, spirituality to motherhood, parenting and family to grief and loss. She takes inspiration for her writings from her own life's journey, which has led from tribulation to learning how to thrive in all things, including a lifelong, since birth, disability of legal blindness, a divorce at age 26, and then at age 38, the loss of her beloved husband. These experiences very much influences her work as an author on her journey through motherhood, her journey of faith for over 35 plus years. Now, she has many books out. Now, I have read Now I See, and this book is all about her life journey and tribulations, and we'll talk about that and see where she's going to lead. But I don't want to tell any more of her story because it's all her story that I want her to be able to tell. All right, Michaela, let's bring you on, girl. Hello,
Hey,
hello.
hello,
How are
hello.
you?
I'm good, and you?
Good. And thank you so much for coming on, Michaela, because like I was telling everybody, that you are such a great inspiration. And we're going to talk about your tribulations, but I also want to talk about how you said, "You know what? I'm going to live and I'm not going to get any of this stuff, all the tribulations to get me down." And you have done, again, your life is so inspirational. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and that you want people to know about you?
Sure, and I'm glad to be here and appreciate the opportunity to be able to share and tell my story and my truth and my message to with your listeners and audience. And I think we have something in common. I think we're both Texas girls, so
Oh,
both
absolutely.
with feathers, right? And it doesn't help that my feathers are red. So anyway, we have a lot on that, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So I'm definitely a Texas Southern girl redhead. Although I live in Louisiana now, and I live in Louisiana with my two children. But I was born in Texas, and I have, as you so rightly said, a most interesting journey. And I am a multi-published author, which 9 books out, and I really hope to have a lot more out because I'm always working on projects, and I do pull a lot from my life's journey and what I've learned. I mean, I don't know everything. I'm not claiming to. I don't have all the answers, but we learn stuff, right? Well, we hope we do.
Right. Right.
Let's hope we all learn stuff, okay? That's a good thing to do. Learn stuff and not just never grow or anything. But
Oh, absolutely.
that's what I can share. What I've been through and what purpose it may have, or how it's impacted and influenced me, what I've learned from it. So that's why I'm here. Let's talk about it. So I figured everything's on the
Absolutely.
table, and that's how we learn, through conversation and dialogue and all sorts of things. So
And you know what? And I'm going to go, I'll go ahead first of all, because especially people who are just listening about your books. And then I'm going to dive right into the book that I read. Okay. But look at
mhm,
all the books. I mean, this is what, eight, but wait, let's say one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8 books.
mhm.
And fantastic writer, and such an inspiration. And the one that I read was
Now I see.
and it was is this your latest book? Is Now I See?
No, actually not. I want to say the one on the very bottom, well, right for me, because I'm looking at the screen with
Right.
the yellow cups on it. I think that was the one that came out last, and it's been a while because I wrote a lot last year, but I had a snag with production, and so this year I'm going to hopefully get everything out that I meant to get out last year, and then I'm currently writing for 2024. So anyway,
Okay, well, of course you are, and you need to. So the book that she's talking about that is her latest is Ready, Set, Go. So I just want to make sure that the people who are just listening and they don't see it, but this really, really involves a lot of your life and where you started and everything. It's also a love story. Okay. And we'll talk about that love story in a few minutes. But what I really liked is you were very genuine about your beliefs and, where you come from. And to me, that is, wonderful that you were able to share that with us because you're putting your life on the line. You're opening yourself up. Whenever you first got married and things were happening in your life, I love that your counselor said, you know, I know you don't like to get divorced. You don't like the D word because, like you said, you had an inspiration from was it your parents that were married forever?
they're still married, and they're
Yeah,
going on in November. It'll be 49 years. So then
right,
in October,
right.
it'll be 52 years together. So there'll be a deck of cards together. No, I'm kidding.
Wow. Hey, that's great. But you know what? And to me, because because I know that it's engraved in us that divorce is the last straw, and which it was for you.
Hmm.
And the counselor kind of gave you permission because she's saying, you know what, God doesn't want you to suffer. The divine doesn't want you to suffer through this. If it's bad for you, that is something that you need to get out of. Can you kind of
Right.
talk about that a little bit?
Well, we met in college. The my first husband, the guy I was married to at the time, and like I said, I we didn't get divorced in my family. My dad's parents were married for, I don't know, 30 something years, maybe 40. I'm not sure on that. His mother died when I was young, but and then my mom's parents were married for 28 years, and like I just said, my parents have been married coming up on 49 years in November, I think. Yeah, because I got married in
Oh, wow,
74.
that's incredible.
And then they
Yeah.
dated for 3 years before that, so 50 years, 52 years total. So we just didn't get divorced until my generation. And me and
Mhm.
another cousin are kind of the first ones out of the grandkids to have to get divorced. But anyway, and so it was a struggle for me. I mean, no one goes to the altar going, "Yay, let's get married so we can just get divorced in a few years. This is so much fun. We want to do this." No one does that. Okay, no
No.
one.
No.
You don't do
Yeah,
that
yeah.
thinking that's gonna happen. And so you think you're going to have a certain life and a certain journey, and then it all goes to the place we don't want to go to,
Right.
in a
Right.
handbasket.
I know. I understand. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
um,
and yeah,
and then so you have to figure out, okay, what next? All these things you thought were going to be or that you'd hoped for, that you wanted, and they just went kaput down the drain. So it's like, okay, what now? And sometimes in divorce situations, there's reasons, all sorts of reasons why people get divorced. And in the case of mine, it was, yeah, I chose to leave that marriage, but it was his choices that led up to it. So it wasn't
right.
really in my control, because you can lead the horse to water, but you dang sure can't make them drink it, and it takes
Yeah,
two. So
absolutely. Absolutely. But you know what? It was God put somebody else in your life, and that's when I'm
yes,
talking about your love story because I
right.
love how y'all met. Can you explain how you met John?
Yeah. So like I said, I live in Louisiana. So the town I was, well, I'm not that far from that town I was living in at the time. It's a hop, skip, and jump over the bridge because there's only a river that separates the two. But anyways, so I was working at the local bookstore. I got that job in February of '05, and I got divorced, legally divorced, not much longer after that. So it was about May when I was at work one day, and this gentleman came in, and I offered to help, and he was looking for this, that, or the other, and I was like, okay, here you are. And then a few days later, he came in looking for something else. I'm like, wait a minute. Um, Not that it's my business, but those two things don't go together. I mean, Catholicism and Judaism don't exactly net on the
Right.
religious spectrum. Okay, I'm like, wait, I'm like, sir, I said this may not be my place, but I really want to help
Mhm.
you find what you're looking for. So, what exactly are you looking for? Like, I'm thinking, dude, those don't go together. Like,
Yeah.
okay, and then I was like, I have to know what exactly are you looking for? And he chuckled and laughed, and then we started talking, and then you know. I helped him find what he wanted, and come to find out, he just like he was a great learner and lover of all things, and would read just about anything you put in his hand. So once I knew him, it made sense that he was on the one end of 180 to the next of the religious spectrum. But anyway, I didn't know that at the time, so I'm scratching my head, going, "What the crap does this guy want?" I'm like, he must be really searching for something if he's going from that to that. But like I said, not supposed to be my business as a
Mhm.
a sales associate, but I was so curious. I was dying to know. I was like, sir, this may not be appropriate, but I got to know what are you. I was trying to figure it out because it was puzzling me, and then it opened up a way for us to strike a conversation, and then we just went from there and ended up dating and falling in love, and we dated for 2 years, and then got married in May of '07 and had almost 10 years together. So until April of 2017. So it's been almost 6 years.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So, okay. And, I've got to ask you, and I know that he passed away when you were 38. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So,
I was 38. Hence, a lot of people hear me say 38 triple D. They're like, come again? What? No, no, no. It has nothing to do with physical appearance. I promise you, it is not my garment size. Might have been when I was pregnant, but that has not been for quite some time. So we're not talking about that. We're talking about the idea of a way of describing and summarizing a lifelong journey of going from surviving to thriving tribulations, despite tribulations, because I had disability, divorce, and death of beloved husband all by the age of 38. So 38 triple D. There you go.
I am so glad you brought that up because when I first started reading your book, I was going, okay, I know I'm going to find out soon what this is all about, the 38 double D, triple D, but
Mhm.
and then you bring it up. Oh, that's what it is. So to me,
Yeah.
the light goes on and you're going, that makes total sense. That makes total
Uh-huh.
sense. I love it.
It's just a clever, like, it grabs it get I was taking this class and learning how to do what we're doing here, PR and speaking and whatnot, and like, you need a hook. You need something
Mhm.
catchy. It can be clever, it can be provocative, it can be, whatever. Like, take something from your life, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And so that's how I came up with it. But anyway, I'm a little
Absolutely love it.
I can be a little bit of
I
a
do.
smart aleck and sarcastic person, and I'm trying to be diplomatic because I tend to say other words, but um, figure it
But you
out.
know
Use your
what?
imagination.
Absolutely, and, what I love, though, is it goes into your book that you have a sense of humor, and that's what makes it so much enjoyable to read, because you're talking about stuff that is very
Yeah,
difficult in life, and so
I
it's
feel
fun.
like people find certain hard subjects more palpable and more inviting and willing to open up that very a door to conversation and dialogue that may have been slammed shut. I mean, we've all grew up, especially in the South, that you don't mix company in mixed company. You don't talk about politics and religion, right? So those are hard topics. They're
Yeah.
controversial. They're
Mhm.
can be dividing and divisive. I mean, Lord knows how divisive our country is right now, but we won't go down that rabbit
Right.
hole. That's a whole nother. And I very well could go down that rabbit hole because y'all probably saw in the picture. I actually do have a book on politics because I'm a
Oh,
little bit
yeah.
of an odd and actually like it and got my master's in it. But like I said, that's a whole nother animal. I'll spare you the glory details on that one. But so yeah, it's and I feel like when you're talking about whether it's religion or politics or hard journeys in life, such as maybe some people would think of mine, if you make it more relatable and authentic and humorous when you can, because I mean, I'm not making light of any of it, but making it more easy to take in, then people are willing to have those conversations and dive in with you.
Absolutely. Now, before we leave the love story, okay, and I know that you talk about he was your love of your life, and
Mhm.
I kind of want to do a contribute to him. What is something that you just absolutely loved about him? and maybe also kind of drove you crazy about him.
It's just marriage. No one's perfect, right? And it's not about
Right.
being perfect. It's about being perfect together. And we really were perfect together. He was the
Yeah.
right one for me. And I, believe that we knew we were right for each other. Um, how long is your show? Because I could be here all day talking about him. But as
Oh,
far
I
as
understand.
the one that drove me crazy, even though I end up, and it's funny because the things that drive us crazy when we're together, we end up missing them the most. He was a morning person because he was military, and so he could be up to the butt crack of dawn and sing to the top of his lungs, like, dude, I am trying to sleep. You might be a morning person, but me myself am not. I want to go to sleep. So it was just, interesting time. And then after we had kids, I'm like, if you wake up our kids and I have to get up before they're up because you woke them up, I'm going to be not a happy wife. Motherhood forced me into being a morning person, but it's not my inherent nature. I would much rather sleep to like 8 or 9 and stay up to like midnight or 1. But that changed about 12 years ago, except during the summers and on holidays. But so, just that, just other odds and ends. Like we had different ways of thinking about some things, but nothing major. And but as far as the list of what I loved about him long outweighed the not loved. So, um, he was just a fun guy. I mentioned he was military, so if anyone who's been around military people know that they're kind of their own special breed. And within that special breed, the infantry grunts are definitely special breed. So, it was interesting and fun to be with. And
Got you.
he was a personality. And, he loved to read and learn. And we just, I don't know, it was just wonderful.
Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing with that.
Mm.
And
Oh,
talking, and I know he left two beautiful children, with
yep.
you. And I know that, it just sounds like you're a wonderful mama because that just brings you, the joy that you need in your life. Now, with somebody who is grieving process, what is something that
Mhm.
you can tell them to put that, to keep going and put those feet on the ground and keep walking?
Oh, if you're going through grief, was first and foremost, it's your own journey. Yes, grief is grief is grief, but it's still your own journey, and no one can really tell you how to travel it. You have to be willing to get comfortable with the uncomfortable and getting used to doing things you never wanted to do in a million years. And one of them is learning to figure out that it's okay to travel your journey your way, and no one can really tell you how to do it unless they've done it. And even then, it's still different. So you have to, excuse me, you have to travel your journey the way that it's right for you and that's comfortable for you and that fits your life because you're the only one that's doing it
I absolutely love that. Yeah, I
because no one
love
else is
that.
doing it. But actually, that is a part of grief in and of itself. But that kind of idea and thought process kind of developed, and a lot of what we're going to talk about probably in this episode is I developed early in life because it was things I had to learn and develop to get through life with a disability. So I pretty much have always felt for a very long time that at the risk of sounding a certain way than other meant, I pretty much do things my way. And
Mhm.
no one else really has to do it my way because no one else has to do what I have to do, and I don't have to do what they have to do. So, outside of a certain little circle of friends that really matter to me or people that really matter to me, I give two craps less what the rest of the world thinks because I don't have to travel their journey and they don't have to travel mine. So,
Mhm.
I hope you, not you per se, but in general terms, I hope you want to come in and enjoy and we can do things together, but I got to do me and you got to do you. And if that's not
Yes.
okay, then have a nice
Yes.
life.
And I love
I
that.
apologize for it. So,
Well, and you know what? And I think you're shaped at your experiences, and a lot of people tend to, they're worried about what other people think of them. And I love that you have gotten past that. And I know that not only because of your disability, but because you have red hair.
that's probably part of it. And being a Southern Texas girl and a Scorpio, I blame it on all four of those. The reputation precedes me, and I live up to it. Absolutely. I'm very sassy, very smiley, and spunky, I'd like to think, and all sorts of things. And God help me, because I'm very smart alecky and sarcastic, and my husband was too, by the way, and my
Mhm.
parents are, and so my children are pretty much screwed. They're going to get that whether they want to or not, and then I'm gonna have to put up with it. So we'll see how this goes through the teenage years. Wish me luck.
Good luck. Lots of luck. Now, do
Yeah.
either of your kids have red hair?
No.
Oh, no. Okay. Well,
Mm-mm.
maybe later because growing up, I was the only one in my family with red hair, but I have
Yeah.
2 kids with red hair.
Yeah.
So you
I
just
don't know
never
where it
know.
came from genetically, but we always kind of figured. I think my dad's mom kind of had like dark red, brownish auburn, and so if
Mhm.
there is any genetic thread through that, it probably was from her. But I don't know that for sure. But no, my daughter has beautiful brown hair, and my son is my little blue eyed blondie boy.
Oh, okay. So you just never know. Maybe grandkids, you'll get the redhead. Okay, so
Well, that's what
let
actually happened. Like, my mom always told me that her mother always wanted a redhead, and none of her kids were redhead. And so when my mom told her that she had me, she's like, "Mom, you guess what she has? She has red hair." And she's like, "No, she doesn't, Sandy. She does not." And then she came to see me in Houston. She's like, "Okay, I have a redhead grandchild." That's exactly what happened in our family.
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I know. Whenever I was born, my mom goes, "She's got red hair."
Yeah.
So so I'm the same way. I was like a little shocked. It's like, "Oh, red hair." Yeah, I don't look like the rest of my family. So, but anyway, we'll
Well,
move
I was
on
a
from
little
that.
shocked because I was a redhead and I was born blind, and then got my
Yeah.
sight at 7 months old and been legally blind my whole life, or visually impaired, or whatever label you want to put on it. And there's no medical history of any of that in our family. I mean, okay, they're all older now, so they read, wear your
Mm.
typical reading glasses, but nothing like my visual problems, and my kids don't have it. So it truly was a fluke. Like, okay, what the
Yeah.
heck?
R
Whatever.
right. But you know what? That makes you who you are today.
Yep, sure
Um,
does.
so yeah, so let's talk about in your book, you do talk about how you were able to deal not only because of your children, okay, your children really brought you joy and really a goal saying I need to be here for them. You
Right.
also talked about having music and doing a lot of inspirational things. Can you kind of talk about what you did to and besides writing, you did that as well.
Well, I've always written. I mean, like I said, I was an odd duck. I remember writing my first poem in fourth grade, and my first, okay, get ready for this one, editorial in second grade. And not only an editorial in politics. I told you I like
Wow.
politics. So I don't know
Yes.
many second graders that are running around thinking I want to write, or I need to write this down, and I need to voice my opinion on a part of the American dialogue at the time, and conversation of what was going on in our country. So whatever.
Wow.
I no wonder I have a master's in it, but go figure. So anyway, I've always written, and it's always been a part of who I am and what I do. If I'm not doing it, I was thinking about, I wrote part of a chapter today. Should have done more, but I didn't get to it. Um, I have lots of things, like I said, that helped me through the disability and the divorce, and now, of course, through losing my husband, and continue, that helps me as I travel this journey. Because as much as we'd like to think grief is one and done, it is not one and done. It's actually more like a
Mhm.
boomerang, and it will come
Yeah.
and snap right back into your life when you think you got something figured out. Here comes something else. So, um, I call it, and some of the things you talked about, as far as like practical things that I've done, like the writing and the music and whatnot, fall into place with the steps that I've used to attack, or not attack, but I guess be my methodology or approach, or way of doing things. I call it finding grace through grief, and it has 5 keys or steps to it. It's the grounding for the G, and I'll explain this better in a minute. The redesign for the R, the learning to live in abundance for the A, and the choosing care over chaos and confusion. Oh, clarity. Excuse me, I left one out. Choosing care and clarity over chaos and confusion. And then the E for being essentially equipped. And those do have things with it. Like, when those life storms come and things knock on your door in life, and you're figuring out, what am I going to do to get through this door? Am I going to open it? Am I going to close it? How am I going to walk through it? Whatever. You need that strong foundation. Now, for you and me, it happens to be our faith, no doubt, and it always will be. But for others, like you said, who may not be, they may have some type of other version of spirituality. In
Mhm.
my personal opinion, it won't serve them very well, but each to their own. Um, I believe there's only one way, but we all have to find that. It may be their faith in a belief system. It may be their family. It may be their friends or whatever. But you're still needing some type of grounding to hold you firm and steady when everything else is crumbling around you and shaking you to your core, or you're going to drown by the crashing waves or whatever that storm is. And let me back up for a second and let me say this, because I didn't there is no get out of free tribulation suffering card in this world. There's not. Good luck finding it. I've looked. It's not going to happen. So if we don't get out of it and we're not excused from it, like, may I be excused from this life table? I don't think so. I wish. But we're not. So then it becomes a question of not when, but if, and not if, but when and how many. Then would you rather be, like, caught off guard and not know what the crap you're gonna do, and then, like, just stunned in place and not know what to do and just stay there, or risk drowning and succumbing to this insane storm that's trying to engulf your life? Or would you rather have a type of, even though there is no actual roadmap or instruction manual in life, you kind of have to be willing to kind of create your own. It would be nicer if it came with instructions, like a remote control or a microwave
Yep.
or whatever. It's amazing me what we have
Absolutely.
instruction manuals for, but give someone a kid, like, oh, you're a mom now and there's no instruction manual for that. Oh, okay. It's pretty astounding what we have manuals for and what we don't. Same thing for going through grief or whatever. But or would you rather create your own manual or have your own roadmap to help you go from A to B and go from just barely surviving to hopefully coming out on the other side and striving to thrive? So I kind of created mine, and that's what these 5 steps are. So we've talked about the G. The R is daring to redesign in those moments of your life. Like, you can either be defined by your circumstances or you can define it for yourself. You can say, okay, this is not what I wanted. I didn't expect this. I didn't ask for this, quite frankly. But I have a choice in maybe not what I was handed or what circumstances came my way, just very much like when you're playing a card game, you're dealt cards that you didn't choose. But if you're a good card player and hope to win, hopefully you play them well and play strategically, and then you win the game. And then you're a good card player and it worked to your favor. But in life, that's just equally as true. What we do with it is what we have control over, and how we utilize it or facilitate what we're going to do with it. And I was raised never to stop, never quit, never give up. And I'm pretty much, I don't know how to say this any other way, so excuse the expression, substitute what you will, but hold my beer and sit back and watch. Because telling this little redhead Texas girl no is pretty much a guarantee it's going to happen. Just saying. So, I mean, there's a few things I will never be able to do. Like, I don't think any of y'all want to picture a legally blind chick driving down the road. There's no getting around that. It's not going to happen. It's not a good idea for anybody. We don't want that. It's not smart. It's not safe. But aside from things like that, if you can't move the mountain, you either find ways around it, up it, or under it, right? And so
Mhm.
that's what I've tried to do. Has it been easy? No. Is it a cakewalk? Not really. Not even really all that enjoyable sometimes. But it is what it is, and you do what you got to do if you want to get it done. It's about choosing: are you going to be a victim or a victor? Are you going to say, I can just stay here and not do anything because I don't have to, because I got this crappy hand? Or, like, screw that. Let me see what I can
Mhm.
do, through hard work and God's grace and determination and grit, whatever you want to put on it.
Yeah.
Which is how I've been able to do all this stuff that everyone's like, oh my gosh, you did that. I'm like, yeah, but to me, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, it is in some ways because it is hard, but it's just who I am. It's what I do. It's what I've always done. I've
Right.
never not done this. I've never had a day where I didn't. But even before the divorce and losing John, I've never had a day where I didn't see the world through pretty screwed up eyes, I might add. Um, totally jacked vision. So it's the only thing I know. It's not like in other cases, like someone that had a normal life or whatever the heck normal is, but for the sake of this conversation, normal, and then next day you weren't able to do what you did before. I was born this way. I will always have these visually impaired eyes or legally blind eyes. So I don't know any different. And so I've always had to
Yeah.
relate to the world that way and figure things out from
Yeah.
that standpoint. And then you add the divorce to it and the death. And so I've always had the choice of what am I going to do with these things, whether I ask for them or not. Now, once I made my choice, I've often said I don't have a choice now. Like, how I have to function in life to accommodate my disability, I don't really have a choice in that. But it was my choice of whether I was going to let it
Right.
beat me or not. I had a choice regarding whether to leave my marriage or not, but then once I left, it was up to me to decide what I would do in life now and what I wanted for my life, and same with losing John and raising 2 kids. Now I'm still trying to figure out some stuff because, like I said, it's an ongoing process that never really
Mhm.
ends, and you don't really move on or get over it. You just get through it. Anyone who says you move on or you get over it is very delusional, if you ask me. No offense. That tells me they've never lived it, so they don't know what they're talking about. Um, but you still figure it out and you do what you have to do. So I knew in that moment, even though I didn't know many, many other things that would come or that I would have to figure out, as soon as I was literally answering the door to my apartment in New Hampshire that night to be greeted or see 2 cops standing before me to be able to tell me the biggest life storm of my life, that John's passing. I didn't know a heck of a lot at that moment, but I did know the one thing, that if I didn't do this, would royally screw up, and that would be not being there for my children. And so I knew I had to do that. And yes, I was in excruciating pain, but they had just lost their dad and they were 6 and 3 at the time. Not the youngest I've ever heard of, but definitely pretty young for having such a hard hit. And they wouldn't even know
Mhm.
what the crap was going on. So, and they definitely didn't ask for it. So
Right.
it was on me. So that's the
Yeah.
R.
Yeah.
And then we get to the A of, I was getting lost in my
Mhm.
thoughts. Sorry. I was like, wait a minute, where was I? Um,
Oh, no, it's
learning to live in
okay.
a,
No.
um, no, I'm not just talking. Learning to live in abundance. So that could be finances, but I'm also going to clarify, I'm not a financial girl. I have someone that does that for me. So while that can be a part of abundance, I'm more referring to abundance in how we see things, finding the joy, finding the gratitude. There's a reason why, and it's not always easy, and in the hard times it can be really hard to find, but there's still always something to be grateful for and always something to find, even if it's as small as the sunshine is shining today and we finally got a break from 2 weeks of rain, or whatever. There's always something. It can be small, it can be big, it can be whatever. There's a reason why in our society we have the expressions of mind over matter, and if you put your mind to anything, you can do it. There's a quote. I'm not great at quoting quotes, but Henry Ford, I believe, said, if you think you can, if you think you can't, then you'd be right. So our mindset is kind of a game changer, and it really can open up the doors of how we see things. And so that's what I'm talking about when I say learning to live in abundance, seeing the good, seeing the joy, finding the gratefulness. And sometimes it's a choice, I'm going to choose to feel grateful even though everything around me looks like crap. There's still something I'm being thankful for. I mean, if we are believers, in your audience, then if nothing else, we at least have our faith and salvation to be thankful for. So on the worst of days as a Christian, we at least have that. And that can be everything too. So I don't mean least, but at least we can say that one thing, if nothing else. And so that's what I mean by, you can always find something, no matter how hard you might have to look, or where you have to look, or how small it may seem, or how big it may seem. There's always something. And so I think your mindset
Mhm.
has a lot of power and a lot of influence in how we proceed through this journey, and what allows you to go from surviving to thriving, and what allows you to stay true to the choices you want to make. Like if you have a dream or a project you're working on, there's going to be tough days you don't feel like doing it. I want to go back to bed. I want to watch TV. I want to do something other than this. Okay. I'm done. I don't want it. But you have to keep making those choices and having that mindset that helps motivate you and spurs you on. So I think mindset is actually probably one of the harder things we have to contend with always. But so that's what I mean by living in abundance. And then the C
Mhm.
is choosing care and clarity over chaos and confusion. And quite honestly, each and every one of these could probably be a separate topic in and of itself. But this is really about self care and what self care is, and the purpose of it, and the goal of it, and how important it is, and what ways you can get self care. Because if we're not caring for ourselves, we're going to get burned out, we're going to get overwhelmed, we're going to be done, we're going to be empty, and just like nothing in the tank. Um, and then we won't have anything to give, so that we can't have a healthy mindset because we're overwhelmed and frazzled and stressed and burned out and like all the things. And then we won't be able to have the mindset that helps us make the choices that we're while standing on this foundation, because we're going to be thinking everything's crumbling around us because we can't see straight because we're exhausted or whatever. So that's the C. And I was not always the greatest at self care, but being in grief for the last almost 6 years, I've learned that doing self care can really make the difference between surviving and thriving and feeling like you're drowning. Because you're like, you know what? Those dishes and that laundry, unfortunately, because there's no fairy dust or magic wand to make those annoying household, everyday, Monday, boring things that no one likes to do disappear and go
Mhm.
poof. We're not, for anyone who, now I didn't watch it in real time. I remember watching it growing up on Nick at Night. Yes, I'm showing my age and dating myself. But for anyone who remembers Bewitched, we're not Samantha's running around twitching our nose, making everything just poof. I wish. If you figure out how to do it, please, dear God, let me know. I'd love it. But we're not. So the point is, none of that stuff is going anywhere. If you need to go take a 30-minute hot bath or a nap or go for a run or go out with dinner with a girlfriend, it will be home at your
Mhm.
house, happily awaiting you to attend to later. I promise you, unfortunately. So take that time for yourself to get recharged and refueled and rejuvenated and refreshed so that you can attend to all of these wanted or maybe unwanted things that are being very patient. So, to be
Mhm.
addressed. So, self care just, it has to be a part of your life if you want to keep doing what you're doing and do it well. And then you have the E of equipped, meaning gathering the tools and the resources that can equip you well, that are essential to
Mhm.
you being able to know what you need to do and help you do it. I mean, like, I know I like to travel, and I'm sure there's a lot of y'all out there that do. Even if you're a more spontaneous person as opposed to me, who's very much a planner, okay, I love to plan. My feathers in my life go much better when I'm in order and organized and planned, okay? I don't like chaos. It does not work well for me.
Right.
But even if you're very spontaneous and love just the fun of the thrill of seeing what comes next, you still know that even if you throw a dart at a map, you have to have a car or a plane ticket or a train ride to get there. You're not
Mhm.
going to really go very far if you don't have something to get
Right.
you there, whether you know where you're going or not. You still have to get there. So that means a car, that means a vehicle, that means maybe a bike, maybe a motorcycle. I don't know, maybe a plane, maybe an Uber or Lyft. But the point is, you need something to do that, and you need to
Mhm.
pay for it somehow. And when then wherever you're going to, you need to know you're staying somewhere. And I'm assuming they're not nudist colonies, so you're going to need clothes. And I'm assuming you don't want to starve, so you're going to need food. So the point is, when we travel for fun, vacation, or work or
Mhm.
whatever, you need things. You need to be equipped to make that trip, make that adventure happen. Life is no different. Traveling through life, we
Right.
all need something at some point. That could be finances, that could be spiritual resources, that could be
Mhm.
support for, okay, I have a job, so I need someone to take care of my kids, or whatever.
Yeah.
We'd like to think we get through life without help. Yeah, we're kind of kidding
Yeah.
ourselves on that, people. So, and
No,
it
I
could be
totally agree.
more people might need more help or help in different areas than the next person, but you're still getting the help. And I
Mhm.
think I got over the idea of asking for help a long time ago, back, than most people, because it goes back to the disability. I always had to have things to equip myself to do what I do
Right.
and get through it with the disability. So I think I am
Right.
more comfortable with it than what some people may be, but it's still a part of life. So basically, the E helps you be able to do the self care, that helps you have the good mindset, that helps you stay true to the choices you want to make for your life so you can live the life you want. Because life is really just a strand of our choices strung together that gets you to the destination. If you
Mhm.
made different choices, you'd end up in one direction. If you made different ones, you'd end up in another direction. And then the foundation that helps steady you while you're doing all these things. So finding grace through grief.
Oh, right. Oh, I love it. Absolutely love it. Can you tell us that again? No. You just
Yeah,
it seemed like you're so passionate about it, and it just comes so easy to explain it. So, thank you so much, because I know my listeners are really going to benefit from all of that. Well, are you ready for the last question?
sure.
All right, let's do it. Let's get the wheel up here. And let's go ahead and spin it and see what the last question is for you. I love the little sound effect. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Michaela, what was your favorite subject in school?
History, hands down.
Oh, yeah, I figured that. Was
Yeah.
it American history? Was it what kind of history?
I do enjoy American history, and more specifically, I enjoy the story of our country and the foundation of it, the like the colonial times. But I also enjoy European history, like the Reformation time period and Renaissance. I mean, there's other great periods in history. Don't get me wrong; there's all amazing. But if I had to pick like two or three that were like my absolute faves, I would definitely say in American history it would be the founding of the story of America and our founding and our colonial
Mhm.
times and the way we do government and then in European history, it would be Reformation and Renaissance, or the like intellectual age,
Okay.
Enlightenment. Those are my
Oh,
faves.
awesome. And I know you don't write fictional books. You like nonfiction. But have you ever thought about writing historical fiction?
I could, but it's just fiction is such a different animal from nonfiction, even if it is grounded in truth, like historical fiction is. And I am a smart enough girl to know where my wheelhouse is, and I'm a smart enough girl to know what's not my wheelhouse. So fiction for me is more of a stretch because I feel like my brain just works more naturally better with when I start from truth or like something that I'm passionate about. And fiction writers, I respect them because I think their job in a lot of ways is way harder because they have to like create all these stories and plot lines and characters and world development. I'm like, yeah, no. I'm like, I'm good. Like, I don't think I'm that good. So, I mean, I've thought about making one fictitious book, but that is going to be a definitely, how like they talk about being stretched out of your comfort zone. That's going to be definitely a stretch. I'm like, yeah, that'll be later if I do that one.
Mhm. Oh, yes, that would be awesome. That would actually, and maybe they'll make it into a series or a
Oh
movie
no.
or whatever. So Michaela, where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm on Amazon. All of my books are on Amazon. All the current projects that are out right now, and I'm very much looking forward to keep putting out books and projects along with other things that I'm working on. But my website is myheartfeltmeditations.com.
I hope that you were inspired by Michaela's message. I'll see you next time.